One of the things that makes Alias Wavefront unique in the industry is that we actually have people who are pure researchers and who aren't part of the product group. And ironically, because of that, they bring some really innovative things into the product.
I think it's important in certain cases to shock the user, right? And say, hey, maybe you can do it this way. What I really like to do is create new things. That's what really drives me. Being able to model fluids in real time is always a big goal, for me at least, the last 10 years. The motion of fluids is described by something called the Navier-Stokes equations. These equations have been studied for over 150 years. They're very hard to solve.
When I first saw the fluid dynamics, it was real clear. You can't do that. That's impossible. He came in and showed me this stuff on a PC, and I jokingly said, well, if you're so smart, can you put it in my Palm Pilot? And the answer was yes. And so I guess about a day or two later, I got this email that he'd had a bit of spare time at an airport, and while he was waiting for his plane to arrive, he wrote the code.
Most people, at least, think of a fluid solver, they think of a huge package, right? It costs like $1 million. I read all of the papers that told me that it shouldn't work, right? But visually, it captures, the fluid.
So the natural thing to do is then take that, explore the concept really quickly in the research group, and then, linking up Jos with Duncan Brimsmead and then in the product group, and then getting the stuff into Maya.
Everyone who joined the team was there because they thought fluids was the coolest thing, and we gathered up the people who wanted to work on it, so it was, the team picked themselves.
There are a few difficult problems in computer graphics that I like to try and tackle. I like to go after some of the things which are really hard to do, things that people haven't done.
He has a tendency to put in stuff you didn't ask for that you want.
People accuse me sometimes of stealth feature development, which I've done a lot in the past. Probably more than anyone else in the company, I've put in features after product freeze dates. And I'm just guilty of it. I can't help myself. I just want to put in a feature and I go ahead and do it.
I don't know where he gets these ideas from. One day there are no ocean shaders or no ocean preview planes or something in the package. The next day it's in there, and then he just did it on a whim.
I probably shouldn't admit to some of the things I've put in late in the game.
A lot of the challenges, I think, were to do with the usability, because we had algorithms that worked. We had a good idea of what it would take to be able to do the rendering, but we didn't have a good sense of how to explain some of these concepts to users.
It's a lot of things. A fluid node in Maya, it's a shape node, meaning it's got geometry. It's also a dynamic grid. It's also a shader. It's also a texture.
What's unique that we developed in fluids, of all things, is the ability to paint forces like we paint in Artisan.
Painting gives the user the ultimate expression of control. You have a stylus, you have a tablet, and you can paint like an artist would paint, and you say, I want the flow of this river or this lava or whatever to go this way, and I want this ball to get carried along with it. You're not just painting on the surface of an object anymore, you're painting into the depth of an object as well. We have this idea of the paint plane with a little manipulator on it where you can slide it back and forth. And so you're painting on a 2D plane, which Artisan is always good at, and then you've got this manipulator that shifts you back and forth in depth.
There are a lot of parameters in fluids, and we had goals that we initially wanted to achieve. But as we progressed towards those goals, we realized there's lots of other things you could do with it. It was like opening up a good can of worms.
We had a fluid summit. We got together for, 2.5 days or so and just knocked around ideas for what we could make the product do.
That's A, right?
Yeah.
We stepped through.
I went out with Jos Dam the night before. Jos Dam's so big that, he just has no limit. He just keeps going and going all night, and I was matching him drink for drink, which was a mistake. And the next day at the Fluid Summit meeting, I was just, it was an important meeting. I had to go to it, but I was ready to die, I think.
But I'm just saying you will miss a lot of...
Jos is so great to work with.
Like I said, most of the time I don't agree with him, he doesn't agree with me, but eventually things work out,
I don't think we've ever felt competitive, which is nice.
And then use it as a projection map.
Yes, but it depends
so
on the size of your sphere, right?
Yeah, but as long as the sphere is sufficiently far away from this.
The ramp at beats are something I've wanted for a long time. I would be creating parameters called things like threshold min, threshold max, gradient, scale, slope, you're just trying to come up with all these weird words to define curves.
A curve can tell you more about a relationship than, let's say, the 3 or 4 parameters, which are just numbers that it replaces. So that gives you a little more intuitive feel. It opens it up a bit for users.
What Jos presented at SIGGRAPH a couple of years ago was really cool looking, and it captured everyone's imagination. But to go from something that looks nifty and actually make it fully integrated with a user interface that people can control is an incredible amount of effort.
That's a painful process, but it's also an exciting process because you're doing something new. You're not solving the same old problems. You're solving new problems. And you know that at the end you're going to give people something new and different. And I think that's very exciting for people on the team.
I think sometimes the best stuff comes out of taking a little bit of risk. You've got to have faith in your own ideas and carry them through to completion.